is constantly moving and can never be finally fixed. Regarding to the sociology of cinema, that dialogue implies a process of interpretation between the spectator and the art piece. The concept of representation is also the way to depict the construction of the selfness and the otherness. As the other is fundamental to the construction of the self, we need differences, actually we need difference, because we can only construct meaning through a dialogue with the other. Completing the thought of whole with a more cinematographic image, Pierre Sorlin affirms that there are two ways to perceive the representation, the visible and the invisible. The visible, of course, stays at the level of what could be seen. The invisible, of course, goes beyond. Though the invisible does imply the process of interpretation. Regarding to our research, an example of invisible part, this is my French accent, so invisible part could be every moment of violence which is hidden from the spectator's view, but clearly audible. According to the methodology brought by Sorlin and referring to the concept of representation as Hall defines it, can we identify the representations of the Algerian War issued of the movie Intimate Enemies? Actually, I found out two types of representations. The first representation is concerning the forms of the torture depicted in the film. As while movies usually focus on different sources of violence, Intimate Enemies makes no exception. So the question of the torture emerges quickly as an important representation. If the most visible torture remained the electrical stimulation, Intimate Enemies also shows torture by waterboarding, starving, sleep deprivation, and summary execution. Now the big moment. Here to show the realism of that process and the visible part of the torture, I will show you a clip from this film. But beware, honestly, those images can be shocking. But for me, I saw it many times, but just for you, there will be a lot of screams. Regarding its invisible side, we can confirm the focus is about the victims. Though it seems the persons who have been tortured are reduced to silence. They are speechless characters who only screams, while whispers are their only words. On that level, we can conclude the victims are treated more like objects than subjects. Then the result of the torture also appears to be purpose, as the intelligence collected during those sessions provide no real tips about the enemy. Finally, the torture, as presented in Intimate Enemies, is both raw and useless. The second representation we uncovered is about the relationship between the French hero and his alter ego, the enemy, the Felaga on that case. As the enemy can be classified as the other, it appears there are two categories of otherness. First, if the enemy shares a common culture with the protagonist, same military background, both speaking French, similar education, that other is becoming a visible character. Its visibility will give him a name, a voice, or even a plot line. The example I will show you, Idir Danoun, is a perfect illustration of the visible enemy, and it's software.
Fatigué fort galant.
Sahel, ukichini kumkanega.
Plus personne, tous morts, massacrés. تدين جوه الشيء
Regarde cette cigarette. C'est toi. D'un côté, c'est l'armée française. De l'autre, c'est le FNL. Quoi que tu fasses, tu as perdu d'avance. Tu ne sais plus qui tu es. Tu n'es déjà plus un Algérien. Tu ne seras jamais un Français.
To give you a little context about those two characters, they've been both actually veterans of the World War II. They've been Algerian. One of them was on the side of the French and the other on the side of the FLN, so the Felagas. So they share the same background, and they share a background which is similar to the French people. But one of them realized then there's no accuracy in that. The other didn't realize it. So I was talking about the visible enemy. But if the opponent does not speak French, or was not used to the French army, then it will be relegated to a minor role, such as figuration, which I will not show you through movie because it's figuration elsewhere. In conclusion, the representations of the Algerian War brought by the French recent cinematography makes us affirm that there is a recalibration of the discourse about that conflict. But regardless of what is emerging about the torture or the relationship between the army and the Felagas, there is no real dialogue. The enemy stays hidden. The French cinema keeps focusing on itself, and then continues to present the other and the otherness as an object, not as a subject. Those are my sources in case. Thank you for your attention.